Friday, August the 18th, and I'm back with a quick vlog life update. As you may notice from the scenery around me, I'm in a new spot. So Stephanie and I actually just completed our move from Tampa, Florida to Jacksonville, Florida. So this is where Stephanie lives. As many of you guys know, I have a spot in Canada, but I come and visit her here as often as I can, which is usually about a month at a time. But usually I'll get stamped at the border for 6 months each visit. So I've been spending a good bit of time here, but we are planning to spend a lot of the fall and winter in Canada. So we have a new home here that we're really excited about. I'll give you guys a full tour of this a little bit later, but first I wanted to weigh in this morning. I haven't given an update on that in forever because I haven't been vlogging quite as much, focusing on the Science Explained content. So we're gonna do a quick weigh in right here, show my body composition, and then we will get on with the vlog. All right, so here's where we are, 165.4 pounds, 17.8% body fat. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. I am making it a goal now, especially since like summer is over and everything, to start a lean bulk. So I'm gonna try to drive my body weight from 165 up to 170. And I will do that through intuitive eating. So I don't weigh in every day. I probably weigh in about once a week just to see sort of where I am. And I've been more or less maintaining. After Egypt, I felt like my body weight may not have spiked up a lot, but my training was really sort of inconsistent over there, and my diet wasn't the greatest. And since then, I feel like I've been sort of recomping in a way where I've picked up my training intensity and cleaned up my diet. And so to be at around whatever it was, 17%, is actually pretty low on that scale. And I know you guys have seen that scale on other channels, but I do really like that one because it is really consistent. So it measures your body weight, body fat, bone mass, and body water. And you can program up to 8 users on it. So Stephanie and I both use that same scale, and that matters because for the body fat percentage calculation, it takes into account your height and some other stats, so it has to be specific to you. So yeah, if you guys are looking into getting a new scale, this is the scale I actually recommend my clients to get, especially when their current scales start misbehaving. The most frustrating thing in the world is if you're on a cut, or especially if you're in contest prep, and your weight suddenly spikes up 8 or 10 pounds. That shouldn't happen if you didn't cheat on your diet. And that's usually an indication to me that the scale is being unreliable. If you like move it on the floor, it'll still give the same consistent reading, which is pretty rare in scales. So this is a really reliable one. You can get 60% off the Body Analyzer scale by clicking the link in the description. So go check that out. And we are gonna get on with the vlog. And the crazy thing about being here in Jacksonville, I've noticed, is that there's a lot of nature around here. So like I just looked outside the window. So we do have a little tiny pool back here. So humid. So yeah, anyway, this is like lizard land in here. Still not used to that. Lizards still freak me out a little bit being Canadian. Yeah, Stephanie and I are gonna go for breakfast this morning to a place called First Watch because it's just like a short walk down the road that way. While I wait for her to get ready, do a couple quick edits on my Genetic Science Explained video. So I actually haven't started the actual editing process of this one yet, but I have everything filmed with my mom, to work out with my mom. I do get asked a lot of questions about how I edit these. From that research, I'll condense it down, write a script, which is what I read out. And then I read it out, cut out all of my like ums and ahs and some breaths and so on to make it sound really cohesive. And then this is basically the point I'll get to from there. So right now I'm here in Final Cut, but I only use Final Cut and I do all of my editing on my MacBook Pro. So this here is my voiceover and I've trimmed that up. I've got a couple songs that I'll put over that and I'll time those a little bit better. What I have to do now is what I consider to be the most like challenging aspect of it is trying to figure out how I'm gonna intro it, because I try to capture people's attention from the very beginning. And so I want something that's gonna be a little bit more intricate with the editing at the beginning to draw people in and keep them engaged. I just kind of have to brainstorm and think about what I'm gonna do with the font and the titling and bring that together. But that process, I would say the first minute of editing usually takes me like 4 or 5 hours. Usually that first minute usually includes anatomy, which is a really difficult edit sometimes to do. From there, the rest of the edit will usually, lately, only take me like 20 to 30 hours once I'm at this step, but that's because I've gotten a lot more efficient with my editing. So it's usually like 2 straight days of like 10-hour blocks of editing is how I do these. So people ask me if I edit them myself, and I do, and I probably always will. I may outsource that for like a video or two, but I really enjoy the creative process of editing and just having full creative control of the content. I have been in touch with a graphic designer who's done some work for the NFL. He's done work for American Express, and we're probably going to collaborate on a project. So if you do see a Science Explained that's just like out of this world, beyond my current capabilities, I'll make sure to give attribution to him. I always do that in the description box anyway. So if I've had like an illustrator or a research assistant, or someone who filmed it for me or whatever, it's usually Stephanie and I who do the filming, but occasionally I'll get a videographer to do it. It's always credited in the description box. So if you guys ever have questions about Science Explained videos or vlogs or anything, always read through the description box. It's usually packed with information. Check those out if you ever have any questions. Usually the answer is in there, including my height, by the way. I also include that in the description box, so if you're curious, you can check it out down there. We also have massages planned for today. I feel like I really need it. Moving in here was not easy. You can see some of the carnage from the move. Stephanie did such a good job of cleaning the place up, but I'm gonna give you guys a tour after. Also, the first thing we got delivered to our place were 2 cartons of Up energy drink. This is not sponsored, it's not an ad or anything like that. I just really like them. Stephanie is indifferent about White Monster versus Up. She likes both of them. I like Up way better. It's by far my favorite energy drink. Do you actually do like Up better? It's like kind of dangerous because it's so refreshing that I want one usually late at night. I'm so sensitive to caffeine, so if I have really any caffeine after like 3 p.m., then I will be up all night, pardon the pun. I'm just gonna chill here and wait until my girl's ready. You ready?
Yes, I'm low maintenance.
I'm gonna show you. So I'm vlogging with, this is Steph's camera actually, so this is the Sony RX100 Mark III. I love this camera for vlogging. It's so light, I can just like throw it around. I bought, as some of you guys probably know, this Sony Alpha 6500, which I also I do like this camera, but I am not the most informed person ever with cameras. So Stephanie and I are actually taking a course right now on photography, and I'm finding it to be really informative, but I still am not knowledgeable enough to be able to use this to its full ability. And what is probably most annoying, this flip screen only goes up to there, so you can't do selfie mode, so I can never see if I'm in focus or out of focus, and I've had to redo so many shots. So I think I'm gonna save this for not vlogging and use this for my Science Explained videos, for taking photos, that sort of thing. Maybe get another one of these so I don't have to keep bumming Steph's if I wanna vlog, and use this one for vlogging. So if I was asked to give just one piece of fitness advice, it would be to pick the right parents. Oh no, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have raw clips of me and my mom training. So it's gonna be like, she'll be like encouraging me. Told my mom to do a shot where she was like, let's go, Jeff, like kind of encouraging me. And I can throw that at the beginning, so it'll be like we're kind of pushing each other, and then I'll kind of have it transition into the voiceover where it'll be like, so if I was asked to give just one piece of fitness advice, to pick the right parents. And then when I say pick the right parents, I'll have it come up like, I'll probably have it like kind of freeze frame, and then have something come up and it'll be like genetics Science Explained. And then from there, it'll just be mostly footage with the studies coming in as I talk about them. All of my edits are really just using keyframes. So, ready to go?
Yeah. You say that all your edits are like just keyframes and stuff like that, but it's not that simple. You do like the most crazy keyframing ever. That's why people think you use After Effects.
It's not just keyframing. I use like a lot of masking and a lot of keying as well. God, I feel like it would be easy in After Effects.
It's not a preset. He does everything like point by point. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Isn't that first sip? Oh, it's so good. So check this out. I don't know if the screen is fogged up. Probably. It's like impossible. It's so humid here. I feel like it's more humid in Jacksonville than in Tampa, but that's okay. I'll just sweat out all my water weight. We have like a mailbox and a garage and a tree. We have a side yard, and then there's a lake. Is that the correct terminology? A lake right here with alligators in it, probably.
Maybe.
I feel like I should say, because people are going to comment on this and I just realized it, it's so normal for me to see like 17, 18% body fat on that scale, but it's probably not the most accurate in terms of nailing down one precise measurement. In my experience, it does scale it slightly higher, but that's because it bases the estimate for your whole body based off of analysis of your lower body. And I tend to store more body fat on my lower body. It is very consistent over time, so it is very good for tracking changes, because every method is unreliable that we currently have.
I don't know if you already said this, but if you're interested on like a video of like all the different types of measurement, he's done a video on it.
Yeah, that's
so
true. I'll link that one
it
in the description as well.
And show like your measurements from other methods and talking about the other types of methods there are out there and how accurate they are.
Yeah. You did a video on that too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I'll put both of them down there. So if you're a girl, watch hers. If you're a guy, watch mine.
Yeah.
And ask me for an estimate of their body fat percentage. And this is just completely, this is just not possible to do, nor does it really matter, because 10% on one person will look totally different than 10% on another person. And I've known guys who are slightly older, so say like in their 40s or maybe even early 50s, who look absolutely shredded, bone dry, ready to compete, and they're still scoring like 13, 14% body fat, which may or may not be accurate, but not all body fat is stored subcutaneously, meaning that if you have, say, more fat around your organs, you may look very shredded, but still rank higher on a body fat percentage measurement. So it's completely impossible to know. I don't think that there's a certain thing that 10% looks like. And Stephanie knows this because you helped out with a study where they had to measure a bunch of different people. And she said that some guys would come in and they might be 10%, but they have no muscle.
Yeah,
so it looks different.
And then there would be others that were more muscular. They looked lean still, but they'd be like 25% body fat.
Right. You don't really care about exactly what the number is. What matters is how it relates to previous measurements for me, because that 17.8 to me specifies a specific look to me. That might look completely different to someone else. And trying to say I want to get below 10%, I think is kind of a trivial goal, because that may look really, really shredded, or you may not even look all that lean depending on your muscularity. In order to track your progress, I think if you're gonna track it, body weight is good, changes in body fat is good if you have access to the technology to do it, and then tracking your progress in the gym, I think especially for beginners, is a good idea to sort of gauge how your muscle is changing over time. I hope you guys enjoyed the rant, and I'll see you in first watch. I think I'm just gonna get what I got last time. So good.
Maybe a different pancake?
Yeah. One kind of like specialty pancake. So last time we got the carrot cake. Today we should get when you do the chocolate chip? Chocolate chip.
Thank you so much.
2 eggs, potatoes, ham, because they didn't have turkey bacon. I usually don't eat ham though. 2 slices of whole wheat toast or whole grain toast. And then this is like our dessert.
Oh, an egg white omelet with mushrooms and tomatoes, toast, fruit, salsa.
Can I have this?
Yes.
Stop it.
Is it good?
Fill up so quick.
Yeah. Give me a few. It's going.
Okay.
You can't really get the gravity of the fact that we're completely drenched.
So, on the way to from breakfast, we got caught in a flash rain.
Welcome to Jacksonville.
I don't know if you can see how wet this is. So soaking wet. Look at that. When it rains in Florida, it really rains.
It rains, it pours.
Yeah. Is that how the expression goes? When it rains, it pours?
It's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. I might actually go out in it just with my shirt off a little bit. My wallet is in there.
Poured on the way back, so I'm soaking wet. We walked back.
It's kind of refreshing because the rain here is warm. The thunder here is like nothing I've ever heard personally. Being from Canada, like we get thunder, but not like that. It's thunderous.
I'll get naked.
Get naked. I'm not trying to make this go that viral. Oh my god! That's so loud! Okay. We're gonna go
to get massages.
You ready?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Appointment?
Yes, we have for 12:45. We got caught in the rain.
Sorry.
No problem.
Oh, so 90 minutes.
90 minutes. Okay, come in the room.
Okay.
We're doing couples massage?
Yeah.
It's joined. Oh, thank you. Oh, there you are. Hey. I'm gonna flick off the camera just for the sake of privacy, so when I come back, I should be really relaxed, maybe half asleep. Hopefully there's a happy ending.
I am Asian.
That is true. That was felt like a long time. It's like we got 60 minutes of just like full body and then 30 minutes of just foot, right?
Yep.
I wasn't anticipating very much because it's this kind of like hole in the wall, like Asian place, but it was like really relaxing for me.
In my experience, the best massages I've ever had were like the least corporate.
Yeah.
And that are like people straight out of like very straight Asian.
I was expecting just kind of like a rub down sort of thing, but like this like little Asian lady, like she starts like digging her elbows in. Check in with you guys at home.
We're actually reusing this because it keeps liquid really cold, so it's really nice to reuse it. So we're gonna make his pre-workout with it. I'm just gonna use high volume because this one does not have caffeine, and you already had enough caffeine from this.
That's right.
So I'm gonna do 2 scoops of high volume. And then I'm making you some salmon and sweet potato French fries for your pre-workout meal. All right, guys.
Ooh, that looks good. Sweet potato fries and salmon. I don't know if you can see it, but we're watching that documentary, What the Health. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or seen it, but it's kind of a big thing, I think a big controversy, and I just won't share my opinion on it for now. But if you guys have seen it, you can feel free to let me know what you thought of it. I'm considering doing like a review of it after I watch it, and I might dig up some of the papers that they reference in it and maybe some other papers to do with the surrounding topics. So I might do that. I've been tentative to touch too much related to diet just because it is so heated and so polarized that I'm not sure if I want to attract certain dogmatists to my channel. But as you guys know, I like to approach things with an unbiased eye. So I'm considering doing a video on this, but I obviously have to watch it first, so that'll probably be a little bit down the line. So here's the pre-workout meal in its final form. Got some baked sweet potato fries, is this like lemon, what kind of salmon is this? Lemon dill?
Pepper salmon.
Lemon pepper salmon and a kiwi. And I'm gonna have a glass of milk with that. I'm gonna have a glass of Cancer. Just kidding. That is really good. Yeah. We're heading to the gym now in like 15 minutes. I'm gonna give you guys a really, really quick tour of the new place. You come in, there's the shoes, there's Stephanie. This is like the main living area, the couch, day bed thing, TV here, and then out here, and out here you have pool deck. So there's a little pool here, barbecue, table, plant. Okay, so that's that area. So that's the kitchen area. As you can see, it's her workplace. So you come over here, let's show them down this alley. Is this to the side yard out here?
Oh, yeah.
I actually don't even know
we
yet.
We actually have like a side yard as well.
So out here, yeah, there we go. Big tree. And then that's where the lake is over there, you saw earlier.
It is the second bathroom.
Dun dun. Oh, what is this? This is the disaster room in here.
We haven't finished that.
Ignore
one
that.
Yet. Potentially gonna be an office. We haven't.
Oh,
we
yeah.
haven't hit this yet. We've only been here like a day and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of work to make the living room look like it did. So next shop is these rooms. You guys have seen this because of the rain.
Yeah. So this is a garage in here. In my garage. By the way,
sock slide.
This is the best house ever for doing sock slide. And then in here is our bedroom. This connects out to the pool area, TV, and then in here is the other bathroom, walk-in closet, and then the other bathroom is here. All right, so that's the quick house tour. That's all you get. And I'm gonna lie here for like 15 minutes, maybe finish watching a bit of the documentary, and then we're gonna head to the gym. So I'll check in with you guys in the gym. All right, what's going on, everyone? So we just got back from the back workout. I just want to take you guys quickly through what it was that we did. I just wanted to offer you guys a few of the cues that I use, maybe like little tidbits that might help make your workout a little bit more effective. So we kicked off this workout with a rope pullover. And lately, I've been kicking off my workouts with one of two different types of pre-activation techniques. So the first one is a lat pull-in, where you try to activate the lats through shoulder adduction, so bringing your elbow closer to your midline. And then the other one is the rope pullover, and here you're training the lats through shoulder extension, so driving your elbow down. I like to do these half kneeling, so I'll put one knee on the ground, and I'll have the other knee more up, and I'll pull the rope down over my knee. And I find that this just gives me a little bit extra range of motion. One thing that I get a lot from people who will try this exercise is that they feel their triceps getting a big pump or feeling a little bit overworked. And that's really common, and that's kind of normal because the long head of your triceps, so the one in here, does actually function or does help with shoulder extension. But you do want to reduce it to a degree because you're trying to target the lats and not just the triceps. And so you want to focus on not extending the elbow. So you don't want to treat it sort of like a press down, pull over hybrid. You want to keep your elbow locked into position. I like to have a slight bend in my elbow. And then just think about driving through your elbow. So rather than visualizing sort of like the locus of control of the movement in your hands and you're sort of pulling the rope down, just think about driving your elbow down and slightly back. And the idea here is not to go heavy or anything like that. And in fact, one thing I'd like to do is sort of move the rope to one side at a time and feel each lat, so my left lat and my right lat, contract individually. And you wouldn't be able to do that if you were going very heavily, but we're not loading it heavily. The only main idea really here is to get a pump in the lats, get the muscle firing, get the blood flowing, and sort of get the workout started off on the right foot. And of course you can do these standing. It's just my preference to do them half kneeling, at least of late. So our first main vertical pull of the workout was the lat pull down. And if you've seen my back Science Explained video, which was done almost a year ago to this date, then you would know like the most optimized way to do this according to the EMG literature. But very quickly, you want to take a 1.5 times biacromial distance grip. So basically not so wide that you're out on the part where it slants down usually, but also not just shoulder width, so slightly outside of shoulder width. You want to pull the bar down in front rather than behind, and you want to use a double overhand grip, at least according to the EMG data. However, different people will have slightly different preferences in that. You want to play around with a variety of different grips and figure out what works best for you. This is what I found to work best for me. And also, you want to load these somewhat heavily, so I tend to work in the 10 to 12 rep range, but I do use a bit of momentum on the concentric, always control the eccentric, and you want to use a slight lean back as well, as that's been shown to increase EMG activation according to the research. And then after that, we switched to a close grip lat pull down. So this is going to train the lats again through shoulder extension, whereas the wide grip lat pull down is going to train it more through shoulder adduction. So just a slightly different tweak on the same basic movement pattern. And again here, you want to think about driving your elbows down, and you don't want to turn this into a row. So we are still trying to target the lats here. So you're pulling your elbow down as your lat shortens. And with the close grip variation in particular, I wouldn't be afraid to go a little bit heavier, especially if you're one of my female subscribers. I find this with males too, but females in particular are often very technique driven in their movement patterns. And so if you're ultra focused on staying very erect and upright, then I feel like you can leave a little bit of overload on the table, so to speak. And so I'd rather see my athletes working a little bit harder. And if you look at Stephanie doing the movement here, she's loading this quite heavily and using a little bit of momentum to squeeze out those extra few reps. And I think that having a high intensity of effort with your back training and just with your training in general is a good way to sort of optimize your hypertrophic gains from it. But yeah, don't go to the point that you're just completely bastardizing the movement. And on this point, I do like to use grips or straps so that my grip isn't a limiting factor in the movement. And if you've seen my forearm Science Explained video, then you know that I like to isolate the forearms and train the grip separately. So when I'm training forearms, I'm training forearms. When I'm training back, I'm training back. And so I would never want my grip strength to be a limiting factor in terms of overloading my back muscles. If your grip is a limiting factor, then you should use straps. If you're a power lifter, it may be a little bit different because you need your grip to sort of work in synchronicity with the rest of your muscles, especially in the deadlift. So you may not want to rely on straps too much. But from a purely physique standpoint, I think that using straps or grips can be very helpful. And I do find that I'm able to get a better mind-muscle connection with my lats. I'm able to just focus on pulling the weight and driving with my elbows more when I don't have to worry about gripping the bar so much. Okay, so after that, we moved on to our main horizontal pull of the day, which is a row. And I've personally been alternating between a seated cable row and a T-bar row. And I use the chest supported variation of that one. I find that with a free weight row, it does put a little bit of extra strain on my lower back. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but that is something I've had to learn to work around. And it's ultimately taught me that when it comes to hypertrophy, there really are no mandatory movements. So you want to find a movement pattern that you can perform safely and that works well with your body in its current form. Here I'm doing this exercise as a trap focused movement. So you really want to think about pulling your shoulder blades together and driving your elbows back with this one. If you wanted to make it more lat focused, you'd think about driving your elbows down. And you can see Stephanie doing the seated cable variation here, but I like to use the T-bar row in this case, and I'll work somewhere in the 8 to 10 rep range. And then on the final set, I like to do a drop set and really feel the squeeze at the top of each rep. And I do like to use the chest supported version here, not only because it provides a little bit of lower back relief, but also because it prevents cheating. Heavy barbell row, for example, oftentimes you can cheat to the point that I think you actually lose out on a little bit of overload on the traps and end up just sort of ducking yourself under the weight, which may not be the most effective way to row, in my opinion. Okay, so after that, we moved on to the rope face pull, and I like to do this movement actually lying down. And the reason for that is that it more so locks me in so that I can go heavier. I find when I'm standing, I have to rely on my core stability in a way that I don't when I'm bid down with my feet put up against the upright. And so I can just go heavier, and ultimately more overload on the traps should lead to more growth over time. So you want to load this movement heavily. And the way that I think about this movement is I treat it more so as just a high row, whereas the way Stephanie does it isn't so much to target the traps, but more so to target the rear delts and the external rotators. So you can see two slightly different tweaks on the same basic movement, and they'll target slightly different muscles. But because I want to grow my traps, and in particular the mid traps, I think that doing them lying down and with heavy weight and with a strong emphasis on scapular retraction, as opposed to external rotation, is a good way to do that. But I think that both variations on this basic movement can have their place in anyone's training program, except for people who maybe don't want to grow their traps. If you really don't want to grow your traps, then maybe don't do the heavy lying variation. And then finally, we finished off with a Smith machine shrug, supersetted with full range of motion lateral raises. So if you've seen my trap and neck science explained video, then you know that taking a slightly wider grip is likely a way to sort of optimize upper trap recruitment. So I took a slightly wider grip on the Smith machine shrug, and I'm using the Smith machine here again to just provide a little bit of support for my lower back, so I don't have to load it quite as heavily with the free weight variation. And then with the full range of motion lateral raise, you really want to think about lifting the weight up. So if you're trying to negate trap involvement, you want to think about pushing out with the back of your hand, and that's going to involve more of the lateral delt. Whereas if you're trying to target the upper traps, you really want to think about lifting the weight up, and then as you get above 90 degrees, you want to think about lifting the weight up with your traps, so it almost turns into an overhead shrug type of movement. And with this, you want to be careful. If you do feel any kind of shoulder impingement, then you shouldn't do it. If it even feels uncomfortable, don't do it. It's not a mandatory movement, but it is one that I like in my own training. I've never had any issues with it in terms of impingement or anything like that. So I do it, but I keep it very light, and I focus on really squeezing at the top rather than sort of like just driving my arms up, if that makes any sense. And that is actually going to conclude this video. So I really hope that you liked it. What was I going to plug here? Oh. Forget what I was going to say. I was going to say something.
If you're interested in our personal lives or more of just personal life, follow him on Instagram and your stories.
Yes,
we document a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, exactly. So what I was gonna say was, I wanna keep this channel primarily information based, so that's why I've been spending so much time on my Science Explained videos and producing those. I will be vlogging a little bit, but not quite as much as I'll be doing the informative content. So you should hit me up on Instagram, my Instagram story. That's where I'll be showing a lot of that more vlog style content. Leave a comment below. Actually, let me know your favorite lat training cue for getting your lats to turn on in like a pull down or a row or something like that. Comment below and let me know. I'd love to hear them because I'm always looking to improve my own training style and optimize that as much as I can. So that's gonna conclude this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in a couple days. I'll be back with a genetic science explained video, so stay tuned for that.
Bye.
All right, bye.